Hi, and welcome to my Creative Art Studio. I'm Lisa, and today I wanted to do a video with my favorite product from Stampin' Up's January to June mini catalog. And it happens to be the product that's right on the front cover, and it's called the Art Gallery Suite. And it's definitely my favorite. When I saw that flower, I just knew I wanted to have that one. So we're gonna work with some of the designer series paper from that line. So in the catalog, the designer series paper that goes with the Art Gallery Suite is here on page 33. And then we're also using the, I'm also using the stamps, the Art Gallery stamps, and the floral gallery dies that go with it. And if you buy it as a bundle, you save 10%. So that's the product I'm going to use for this card. And this is just a fun fold. You could probably call it an accordion card. But basically what I've done is I've taken some of the designer series paper, and here's the dimensions if you want to take a screenshot if you want to make this. The designer series paper is 5 1/4 by 12 inches. And then I scored it at all along the long edge. I scored at 2, 5, and 8 inches. So 3 scores on that long edge of the designer series paper. And then basically once you've got those scores, you can go ahead and fold them and use a bone folder to get a nice crease in that paper. So that's going to be the front part of this card, and it's going to basically fold out kind of like an accordion. And then I have a piece of Pool Party, and this is a standard A2 size card for an A2 envelope. So it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then once you've got this folded, it ends up being 4 by 5 1/4, so it'll fit just perfectly on that Pool Party panel, just like so. So we'll go ahead and put that down, and I'm going to use my Stampin' Seal dry adhesive for this one. Make sure it's all ready. So I'm going to go ahead and put some adhesive on there. And center that right on this Pool Party panel. All right. And so now this is what your card is gonna look like, which is very pretty, but we're gonna decorate it and make it even more fun. So let's put that aside. I also have a basic white panel, and I die cut this from the stitched rectangles. So it was this rectangle right there. So I die cut it from the stitched rectangles, and this is in the annual catalog. And then we're going to use the Art Gallery stamps and stamp a flower for the front of this card. So I'm going to find myself a piece of basic white. So I'll set this aside for right now. We are going to stamp on that. That's going to be the inside panel where you can write your greeting. So I'm using the Art Gallery stamp set. This is a photopolymer set, and it has several flowers, and they are like these ones are like 2-step, and there's another one here that's a 2-step stamping. And what that means is there's an image that you can stamp on top of the other in a different shade, and it just really helps give some really nice depth to that image. There's also some great sayings in here as well. So I always put my dies, my matching dies, on an adhesive back magnetic sheet inside my case, just so I have everything together. So we're also going to use this die from the die set, and then of course we need the flower, the large flower petal, and the stem. So that's what we're using from the die set, and then all the stamps I already have out and ready to go. So let's start stamping. I have the large, this is the base flower piece. no, actually, no, this is the top piece. And then here is the base flower piece, the larger one. And typically what you do is you stamp the large image in a little lighter shade, and the second image, the top image, that's typically smaller, in a darker image, darker shade of ink. So I'm going to use Flirty Flamingo for the lighter shade and Calypso Coral for the darker shade. And we're just going to go ahead and just get this stamped and see how it turns out. So just make sure you get plenty of ink on your image. And then go ahead and just stamp this down, straight down, even pressure, and then lift straight up. It's beautiful. I just love all the just different shading that is already in that image. And then we're going to take the darker color, the Calypso Coral, with the top piece. And again, you can just check it, make sure you've got enough ink on there, and then just do your best to line it up on top of this, the first image that you stamp down. And again, straight down, even pressure, and then lift straight up. And that's just beautiful. It makes me very happy. Now, I did want to also share with you, now I have my, where did I put my stamp cleaner here? I'm going to just clean this one off because I'm going to change the color. And that's this chamois, the Stampin' Up! Chamois that I use for cleaning my stamps. So if you don't have a lot of inks at home and in your stash, one way you can get a similar look is by doing a second generation stamped image. Now let me just get another piece of scrap paper just so I'm not messing up what I have for my workspace. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp the large one, again, the base image, with the Calypso. I'm going to ink it with the Calypso Coral, which is the darker color. So I'm just making sure that I've got plenty of ink on there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp it off first, just one stamped off image, then huff on this and stamp it down. And basically what that's done is it's taken some of the ink off and it's going to give you a lighter shade. Okay, and then you can come in with your top image that you want in the darker shade, and we're not going to stamp off this time, so we're going to use the full ink color. And again, do your best to just line this up over top. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then again, see how you get that nice depth and color variation by doing that method. So that's something you can do if you don't have a lot of inks in your stash to be able to have two that kind of coordinate or work together. So there is our flower image, and then what I would do is I would run this through. I'd place this die over top, line it up as best I can. Sometimes I'll use a little bit of washi tape, a little piece of washi tape like this. A little piece of washi tape like that just to hold it in place, and then I'm going to run that through my die cut machine. Now I've already done that, so it wouldn't take as long in this video. So here's the one that I did with those two colors, the Flirty Flamingo and Calypso Coral. I also stamped the leaf image, which looks like this on a block. I stamped this leaf image in Old Olive ink, and then used the die from the set to cut this out with the die cut machine. So I've already done that for you just so it wouldn't take too long. So those pieces are ready. And then what I want to do now is get a sentiment piece stamped. And I die cut a piece of the basic white cardstock with this die from the same art gallery bundle. And then, let's see, I took the Happy Birthday and I'm Thinking of You. Both of these were from this set, and they work nicely with this die shape that's in the bundle. So I'm going to stamp the I'm Thinking of You in Misty Moonlight on this piece. And I normally stamp first and then die cut, so I was trying to keep this not too long of a video. So let's see how well I can line this up. Now that is one of the beauties of the photopolymer stamp set, is you can actually see right through. Don't mind my head going in the camera here just to try and get this lined up as best I can. So again, just stamp straight down, even pressure, and then pull that off, and there's your piece. So that worked out fairly well. And then I also want to stamp this inside panel. So this is the one I cut with the stitch rectangle dies, and that's going to go right here on the inside of this card. And that gives you a place to write a message, because the rest of the card is quite dark. So you can write your message on this panel. It also just, you know, adds a little more to your project. And what I'm going to do is take one of this small flower from the art gallery stamp set. I'm going to just stamp that down. Let's see, I think I'll do it in the middle where I'm going to stamp my words. Now I was a little more aggressive with that ink, and you can see I got some off on the edges here. So sometimes I'll go in with like a paper towel and kind of clean that off, or you just have to be very careful when you stamp down that you don't push too hard, or you're going to get that kind of halo effect, because I got some ink outside of the main image onto the rest of the acrylic piece, or the photopolymer piece. So you can see some of that ink is still there. If I had pushed down really hard, or if I rocked my stamp, that would have transferred onto my paper, and I don't want that to happen. So I noticed it and was able to be careful. So that's it for those inks. And then I'm going to use the Misty Moonlight again and use the Happy Birthday stamp. So this card will have 2 sentiments on it. And you also have to just think about how juicy your stamps, your ink pads are, to be careful with getting that excess ink on it. So straight down, even pressure on your stamp, and then lift it straight up. So there, that little piece, just a nice little extra, that's going to go on the inside of the card like so. And then let's start to build the rest of it. Move that ink out of the way before I put my elbow in it. I got a little bit on my finger. Okay, so I can put this on the inside, and I will use my Stamp and Seal for that. Center this as best I can on that inside panel. There we go. So that's the inside of our card, and gives us plenty of space to write a message. And if you had a really long message, you could write more on the back as well. And then we're going to finish off the inside. So I want this one to be on this panel. So again, just having a little bit more fun stuff going on in this card. I'm going to use the liquid glue for this piece, just because it's really narrow, and my Stamp and Seal might kind of go off the edge. So I'm going to just put a little bit of adhesive, liquid glue on that, and I'm going to place this right here on that panel. And then just hold it just for a second, let that glue adhere. And now we'll add our flower to the front. So what I want to do is I want to try to cover that up so that it's kind of a hidden message. So I'm going to have my the top of my flower like this, and then my stem to come down here, and then I've got a little bit of ribbon to add as well. And I think I'm going to pop up the flower. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little glue dot on the front top of this stem. So I'm just going to pick up a glue dot with that so that I can tuck that behind the flower. And now I can put dimensionals on the whole piece. So these are the dimensionals that provide depth by popping up your image because they're foam. Now remember that part of the flower is hanging over the edge, so I don't want any adhesive in that area. So let's go here. Sometimes it's always a challenge to remember what edge is it once you turn it over. And then a dimensional on this leaf, and another one over here. That's probably plenty. And then you can pull, take those little backings off. Sometimes it's easy to do it with sometimes it's easy to do it with the take your pick tool. Sometimes it works really well, and sometimes I struggle with it. And I think I've got one more. There we go. Okay. So now I'm going to place this just to cover up that word panel. I think I'm going to pull this leaf up in front of the flower. There, like so. Okay, and then one last thing. We always have to have a little bit of ribbon, right? So I just took a piece of this white woven ribbon. So I don't have the name of it. I think it was sold as a set with twine. And I'm just going to make, this is just something I do with when I have like a little bit heavier weight ribbon. If I had twine, like if I was using some white twine like this, I would typically do a full bow. But if I have a little bit heavier weight ribbon like this, I tend to just do this simple knot, and whatever side you like the look of. And then I'm gonna trim those ends down fairly short. And then this is just going to go on like so. And I think I will do that with a couple of glue dots. Just pick up a couple of those glue dots off that roll. And they are wanting to stick to my nail. So there they are on the back of that ribbon. And let's see, I think I'll go right there, looks good. And just push that into place, and then your card is done. You could also come in with a little bit of Wink Stella. I'm kind of a glittery girl. I like a little bit of glitter. So you could come in, you could cover the whole flower, or you could just add a little bit in the center here like this. Just adds another little bit of interest to that card, and there you go. And so now we have, oh, did I get a little bit of adhesive? I did. So there you go. See, this sometimes happens. My dimensional there went a little bit too far over, so I'm going to just go in and do a little fixing up here by removing that part of the dimensional. See, that's what happens sometimes. We just get it a little further than it needs to go. And I think that should be okay, although I would go back in and fix that up a little bit more, but I have removed the adhesive part of it so it won't stick, but I don't want that part to stick down. So there you go. There's the finished card. And I think this is really pretty. I'm thinking of you, happy birthday. I think that makes a really, really pretty card and quite simple. So I hope you enjoyed that. I did want to share one more thing with the designer series paper from this set. So here's another option. This one paper, if I can get it out of the pack, I have it all here. Oh, I guess that is the one sheet. This piece of paper from that designer series paper pack actually has the flowers that most of them, like quite a few of them, some overlap too much, but most of them you can die cut with the die from the set. So so you see how you can just layer that over the flowers, and there's all sorts that you can die cut from this paper, and that's kind of a fun way to get a little more out of your set. So here's one that one of the yellow ones that I die cut. So you know, if you didn't have the stamps, maybe you know you only could get the paper and dies, you could do that, and this would be your image on the front, or some of the coral, or I think Blackberry Bliss might be one of the other colors that's in that designer series paper. So that's another option of something that you could do for your card making. So I hope you enjoyed that. Here's one other card I made from that same suite, and as I mentioned, you can die cut the designer series paper with the dies from the art gallery suite. And so that's what I did here. I actually didn't do any stamping on this card. I die cut the flower from the designer series paper. So this sheet of the designer series paper, this is one of the flowers I die cut. And then, which you also could fussy cut. So that's another option if you know, can't afford to purchase the dies or the stamps. You could get the paper and just cut that by hand, which would only take like a minute or two. And then this stem and leaf is also die cut, and I just die cut it from a different piece of designer series paper, just kind of a pattern. You could just do cardstock, but I liked the pattern because it gave a little bit more interest to that image. And then I used the, I think that's the Old World paper embossing folder from the main catalog. And then this is a Dutch, it's called a Dutch door card. And so it just opens like that. Oops. And then again, a panel on the inside. If you did have the stamps, you could stamp an image and a sentiment on the inside. But I just wanted to show that there's another way you can create a card with just the designer series paper. Thank you for joining me, and have a great day.